You're lying on the bare ground. It's 50,000 BC, and the sun just went down. There's no door, there's no wall, there's no lock. Just you, some dry grass, and the dark. And out there in that dark, something is hungry. A leopard can see you right now. You can't see it. Your ancestors did this every single night for 2 million years. No walls, no weapons that work in the dark, just soft, sleeping bodies lying in the open. And somehow, they survived. Somehow, you exist. So how on earth did they actually do it? How did a slow, clawless, half-blind primate close its eyes at night in lion country and wake up in one piece the next morning? That's the question, and the answer is far stranger than you think. Think about how insane this actually is. Sleep is the most dangerous thing an animal can do. When you sleep, you go deaf, you go blind, you can't run, can't fight. For hours, you are basically a warm snack that snores. Every other prey animal on the savannah knows this. Zebras sleep only a few minutes at a time. A giraffe might sleep 30 minutes in a whole day, standing up, ready to bolt at any second. They stay light, twitchy, terrified. That's the normal way to be prey. And then there's us. Humans lie flat on the ground, unconscious, for hours on end. We don't sleep less than the frightened animals around us. In many ways, we sleep harder, deeper, more completely, which on paper makes absolutely no sense. You'd think the animal with no claws, no fangs, and no real speed would be the twitchiest, most paranoid sleeper alive. Instead, we became the deepest sleepers of all the primates. So why would evolution take the weakest ape on the plains and let it sleep like a rock in the middle of a battlefield? Something here does not add up, and figuring out why is going to tell us something surprising about you. Here's the thing. It's not one trick. It's never one thing. Ancient humans didn't survive the night because of a single clever idea. They stacked layer on top of layer on top of layer until sleeping in the open went from suicidal to survivable. Fire was one layer. The ground itself was another. The group was a third. And the weirdest layer of all is hiding inside your own family right now. Night. And you have never once noticed it. We're going to build the whole system with you, piece by piece, from the easy stuff to the genuinely mind-blowing. So let's go. Start with the obvious one. Fire. Around 1 million years ago, deep inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, humans were already burning wood on purpose. We have the ash to prove it. And fire changed the night completely. A campfire does 3 separate jobs, all at once. It throws light, so you can finally see what's creeping towards you. It throws heat, so you don't freeze to death in your sleep. And it throws fear straight into the eyes of every predator watching from the dark. Because here's what nobody tells you about big cats. They are terrified of fire. A lion will not walk into a ring of open flame. To a hunting leopard, that flickering orange light says one very clear thing. Danger, stay back. Not tonight. So the fire wasn't just cozy. It was a wall made of light, a force field you could carry in your own 2 hands and set down wherever you slept. And once humans had it, the whole game changed. For the first time in the history of life, a soft, slow sleeping ape had a bodyguard that never got hungry, never got tired, and never fell asleep on the job. But fire has a catch. It's needy. It's not a wall you build once and then forget. It's a wall that eats. Let it burn too low, and your force field quietly shrinks. Let it die out completely, and your invisible bodyguard is simply gone, right when you need it most. So keeping the fire alive through the whole night became one of the most important jobs in the entire camp. Somebody had to feed it. Somebody had to wake in the dark, add wood, and coax the embers back to life at the coldest, blackest hour before dawn. A fire that goes out at 3 in the morning is just a pile of warm ash. So the fire alone was never going to be enough on its own. Keep that in mind. It matters more than you'd think later. Now, before fire, where did our ancestors actually sleep? The same place their cousins still sleep today. Up, in the trees. Watch a chimpanzee at sunset and you'll see something genuinely amazing. Every single evening, it climbs high into a tree and builds a brand new bed from scratch. It bends living branches inward, weaves them together, and shapes a springy little nest. Way up, out of a leopard's reach. And then, the very next night, it throws that one away and builds a completely fresh one somewhere else. Every night, a brand new bed. Why go to all that trouble? Because the ground at night belongs to the predators, and every animal out there knows it. Sleeping up in a tree is like sleeping in a fortress with the drawbridge pulled up behind you. So for millions of years, that is exactly what our ancestors did too. High up, out of reach, safe. Then something changed. Around 1.8 million years ago, a brand new kind of human walks onto the scene. Homo erectus. And erectus has a body built for the ground, not for the branches. Long legs, shorter arms, a frame designed for walking, and running across open country, not for climbing and hanging. This was an animal that was coming down out of the trees for good. That raises a genuinely terrifying question. If you give up the safety of the branches and you lie your whole body down on the open ground, in lion country, in the pitch dark, what on earth is keeping you alive until morning? The answer is the fire we just lit, plus the next few layers we're about to stack on top of it. Because like I said, a fire on its own is not enough. But before you even light the fire, there's a decision that comes first, and ancient humans were experts at it. Where do you sleep? Because not all patches of ground are equally dangerous. And your ancestors read the land like a book. Rule 1. Get your back to something solid. A cave mouth, a rock wall, a cliff face. The wall is behind you. That's one whole direction a predator simply cannot come from. You've just cut the danger in half without lifting a finger. Rule 2. Get up high. A rise, a ledge, a hilltop. Height lets you see further, and it forces anything hunting you to climb up into the light of your fire before it can reach you. Rule 3. Stay near water, but never right on top of it. Because here's the trap. You need water. But so does every single animal on the savannah. And the predators know that. The water's edge at night is the most dangerous strip of land for miles, because that's where the prey comes to drink, and that's exactly where the hunters lie in wait. So the smart move is to camp close enough to reach the water by day, but far enough back that you're not sleeping inside the ambush zone. Think about what that means. Every night, before the sun even went down, ancient humans were running a quiet little threat assessment. Back covered? Good sightlines? Off the hunting trail? They were choosing a bedroom in a world that was actively trying to eat them. And most of us can't even pick a good seat in a movie theater. So the spot came first, then the fire, and then the next layer. Here's the next layer, and it's a simple one. You do not sleep alone, ever. One human next to a fire is still a gamble. The fire might drop low. You might roll away from it in your sleep, but 20 humans packed in tight around that same fire is a completely different math problem for a predator. And we actually have modern evidence for this. Studies of the Hadza, a group of present-day hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, show us exactly what keeps the lions away. And it is not one brave hero with a spear. What actually works is numbers. A big group, bodies sleeping close together, ideally inside. A fence or a hut in one tight, overlapping cluster. To a lion doing the cold math of the hunt, a lone sleeper off by themselves is an easy, low-risk meal. But a crowd is a nightmare. Too many eyes that might snap open. Too many arms and legs. Too much chance that one of them wakes up and screams the whole camp awake before the hunt is even finished. So ancient humans did something clever without even trying. They turned sleep into a team sport. The tribe itself became the wall. Nobody was the wall alone. Everybody was the wall together. And there's a hidden bonus buried inside that pile of bodies. Warmth. On a cold night out on the open plains, a single sleeper burns precious energy just staying warm enough to live. But a cluster of people sharing body heat stays warm with far less effort. So sleeping in a heap wasn't only about safety from teeth. It was about safety from the cold too. Two deadly threats, one simple solution. And here's a small human detail I love. In that tight cluster, the strongest, most capable adults tended to sleep toward the outside edges, while the children and the elders slept in the protected middle. A living set of rings, with the most precious lives tucked into the center. Nobody wrote that rule down. Everybody just knew it. And inside that living wall of bodies, something quietly brilliant was happening. All night, every night. Something they almost certainly never sat down and planned. This is my favorite part of the whole story. Back in 1966, a scientist proposed a beautifully simple idea. It's called the Sentinel Hypothesis. And it goes like this. If a group of animals has no choice but to sleep out in the open, the single safest arrangement possible is for them to never all be asleep at exactly the same moment. There should always be at least one pair of open eyes somewhere in the group. A sentinel, a guard, a lookout. Now here's where it goes from clever to jaw-dropping. Researchers took a group of Hadza sleepers, wired them up with motion trackers, and watched them night after night for 20 full days. And they found something almost hard to believe. Across all 20 of those nights, the total amount of time when every single person in the group was asleep at once added up to just 18 minutes. 18 in total. Think about that for a second. Out of hundreds and hundreds of hours of sleeping, the entire camp was fully, simultaneously unconscious for only about 18 minutes. For 99.8% of the night, somebody, somewhere, was awake. And here's the real kicker. Nobody planned it. Nobody was handed the night shift. No one drew straws for guard duty. It simply happened, all on its own. Because humans just don't all sleep on the exact same schedule. One person gets up to pee. Another can't get comfortable. Another wakes at a snapped twig and lies there listening to the dark. And that tiny, almost invisible fact that we are all a little bit out of sync with each other turns out to be one of the most effective security systems evolution has ever built. It costs nothing. Nobody has to volunteer, and it never fully switches off. Honestly, the best part isn't that somebody's always awake, it's who's awake and when. Hold that thought. We are coming right back to it. Before we get to the guards, let's talk about the bed. Because ancient humans did not just flop down face first into the dirt and hope for the best. In Border Cave, in South Africa, archaeologists found the oldest known bed anywhere on Earth. 200,000 years old, and it is far smarter than it has any right to be. Here's what they did. They cut soft grass, armfuls of it, and piled it up into a comfortable sleeping surface. Comfortable, sure, obviously, but now look underneath. They laid all that grass down on top of a layer of ash, left over from old fires. And that, it turns out, was not an accident. And it was not laziness. Ash is a weapon against bugs. Fine ash clogs up the tiny breathing tubes of crawling insects, and it slowly dries them out. So a bed of grass on a bed of ash is a bed that quietly fights off ticks and fleas and lice while you sleep on it. And somehow it gets even better. On top of the grass, researchers found the crushed remains of a plant called camphor bush, a plant that, to this very day, is used in that exact part of Africa to keep insects away. So sit with this for a second. 200,000 years ago, a human being built themselves a mattress with a built-in bug shield, grass on top for comfort, ash underneath for pest control, and aromatic, insect-repelling leaves layered through it, like a natural bug spray. That is not a random pile of weeds. That is design. That is engineering. These people were not simply surviving the night. They were sitting down and actively designing a better one. Now here's a twist most people never see coming. You would assume that all this danger, all these predators, all this constant vigilance would force ancient humans to sleep less. And you'd be partly right. They did sleep less. But that is not the full story, and the rest of it is genuinely surprising. Somewhere along the way, human sleep didn't just get shorter, it got better, sharper, more efficient. Here are the numbers. Chimps, our closest living relatives, sleep around 9.5 hours a night. Humans, we average about 7. We sleep less than any other primate that scientists have ever actually measured. And yet, we are completely fine. Better than fine. So how? Because when we finally came down to the ground, right next to the fire, in the middle of the guarded group, we could suddenly afford to do something no chimp ever really can. We could sleep deeply. Think about it. A chimp asleep up in a tree has to stay just a little bit alert, even while unconscious, or it loses its grip and falls. But a human tucked safely into the center of a defended camp can absolutely crash. Go limp, go all the way under. So we made a trade. We swapped quantity for quality, and the proof is hiding in our dreams. We spend far more of our night in deep, dreaming REM sleep than our primate cousins do. Some monkeys spend only about 5% of their sleep in REM. Humans spend somewhere between 20 and 25%. That is a massive difference. And REM sleep is when the brain files away memories, works through emotion, and sharpens itself for the next day. So the safety of that fire and that group didn't just keep our ancestors alive through the night. It quietly upgraded their brains while they slept. Better sleep, more dreaming, a sharper, faster mind waking up in the morning. The campfire didn't only save us. In a very real sense, it helped make us smart. Now let's be honest for a second. None of this was a guarantee. This was not some magic, unbreakable shield. Ancient humans absolutely did get eaten regularly, and we have the fossils to prove it. Cold and clear. There is a famous early human skull belonging to a young child, with 2 clean puncture holes punched straight through it. When scientists measured those holes, they matched the fangs of a leopard. Exactly. A leopard had grabbed that child by the head, almost certainly at night. So let's not pretend the fire and the group turned anyone bulletproof. They didn't. Bad nights happened all the time. People wandered off to relieve themselves and never came back. Fires burned down to nothing while everyone slept. Somebody bedded down just a little too far from the warmth of the group, and a predator was always out there in the dark, patient, waiting for exactly that kind of mistake. The system was never perfect. It didn't have to be. It just had to be good enough. Good enough that most nights, most people, in most camps, opened their eyes again at dawn. And across 2 million years, most nights is all that evolution ever needs. Okay, here is the last piece, the one I deliberately saved, for the very end, because it is the wildest part of all, and it is hiding inside your own home right now, tonight. Remember the sentinel system? Strange fact that somebody in the camp is always awake. For years, people just assumed that was random. Pure luck. Lucky scheduling. But then researchers looked much closer at who exactly was awake and at what hour. And they found a pattern that changes the entire picture. People staying up late, deep into the night? Overwhelmingly the young ones. The teenagers, the 20-somethings, the night owls, and the people snapping awake at the crack of dawn, absolutely unable to fall back asleep no matter how tired they are. The old ones, the grandparents, the larks. So your grandmother, wide awake at 4 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, quietly furious that she can't sleep in, is not broken. She is running a program that is roughly 2 million years old. In the ancient camp, the young stayed up and guarded the early night. The elders woke early and guarded the dangerous hour before dawn. And the shift change between them happened completely automatically, built silently into their ages. Which means the mildly annoying fact that grandparents wake up ridiculously early might genuinely be one of the reasons your ancestors survived long enough to have you. Here's the single line I want you to walk away with. Your family's messed up sleep schedule isn't a bug. It's a 2 million year old security system, and it is still running. That teenager who physically cannot get out of bed before noon, and that grandparent who's wide awake before the sun are not opposites at all. They are two halves of the same ancient guard rotation. And the strangest part? Nobody ever had to tell them to do it. So come back to now, to tonight. In a few hours, you'll lie down in a room with a door and a lock and a solid roof over your head. You'll feel completely safe, and you'll barely give it a thought. But somewhere underneath all of that comfort, the old wiring is still there, still humming. The part of you that jerks awake at a strange noise in the dark. The part that always sleeps a little worse the first night in a new place. The part of your family that's somehow awake while everyone else is dead to the world. That's not weakness. That's not a flaw. That's inheritance. Every single time you close your eyes and choose to trust the dark, you are doing something 2 million years in the making. Your ancestors survived the night over and over and over so that one day you could finally stop being afraid of it. And that fire they lit all those hundreds of thousands of years ago is somehow still quietly burning deep inside your sleep. If this quietly rewired how you think about your own sleep, stick around. There is a lot more where this came from.